Welcome back. That was hashtag Fired Up, brought to you by African Muslims Agency. And that was Hafiz Imran Chunara, Personal Excellence Mentor and CEO of African Muslims Agency, who was giving us our weekly dose of hashtag Fired Up. Hope you enjoyed it. 10-year plan. Is that something to consider? Yeah, I think it's brilliant. We're going to switch gears now to a very, very important topic. It's not peace in our time, but it's what the UN is trying to salvage before this crisis spirals any further. This week in New York, the high-level United Nations conference, co-chaired by France and Saudi Arabia, is trying to breathe life back into the long-fading dream of a two-state solution for Israel and Palestine. Very, very contentious at this point. But let's be clear. Israel and its closest ally, the United States, are boycotting the talks, calling them counterproductive. And that's the contradiction on one side. 145 countries already recognize Palestine. France is just committed to doing the same in September. But on the other side, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is digging in, rejecting any kind of roadmap to Palestine statehood and expanding settlements in the West Bank. Gaza, meanwhile, remains under siege. So what does this UN gathering actually mean? Is it a diplomatic turning point or just another round of talk without teeth? Joining us now is Dr. Quraysha Sooliman, Project Manager at the Center for Mediation in Africa at the University of Pretoria. And she's going to help us unpack what this all means, both symbolically and politically. Dr. Sooliman, welcome to News and Views. Always a pleasure having you on Salam Media, and good morning.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Thank you so much for having me on. And by the way, I'm not with the Center for Mediation in Africa anymore, please. I'm now a private independent consultant, okay?
Private independent consultant. There we go.
Yes.
Thank you so much for correcting that. I think we can kickstart the conversation with, the big picture. What's the real significance of this UN high-level meeting, especially considering that both Israel and the US are not attending?
You know, I'm just amazed that people still, but these political elites still can't read the writing in the room. Either that or they think that the rest of the world is rather stupid. Let me just put it that way. Because, I mean, they've been talking for 70 years about a two-state solution, about even recognizing Palestine. The Arab Peace Initiative and the Arab approaches have been there for over 50 years. Seeking, peace, seeking recognition for Palestine, etc. It's all talk and nothing else. So they're not putting anything substantive forward. What is mind-boggling is that, this has been co-chaired by Saudi Arabia and France. If they're really serious about seeking something of dignity for the Palestinians, then the top and first focus and priority should be to stop the genocide. And there's enough legal mandates in place. There's enough information that can be held up according to international norms and international law that gives them enough authority to be able to put teeth into the entire process. What I mean by that is that the ICJ's rulings on the occupation as illegal, it's been there. It was confirmed already in January of this year. Then there is about the wall that is illegal. So all of these things that come up, the rulings come up, but absolutely nothing else is being done about it. So they're going to sit here, all of these men who pretend to be very important, who pretend to be individuals who think that they can fool the rest of the world whilst they do, absolutely nothing. In my opinion, this is about placating their own national populations. It is a way of them to say, look, we're doing something substantive, and they don't want the people to rise. As you see already, there's the stirrings of uprisings happening now in Egypt. It's going to start in Jordan, and certainly it's going to start in other places. So they're doing this to try and quell their national populace, to say, look, we're definitely doing something. And for individuals who are gullible, I mean, if you look at the education systems in the Arab world, it's rather pathetic in terms of critical thought about settler colonialism, apartheid. They know very little. And so they do not have the potential and the ability to move beyond certain small sound bites. And so if they see that now their governments are doing something and they're having this conference, and now France is stepping in, and they don't read the bylines, they don't read the footnotes, and so they don't know. Unfortunately, we're dealing with a rather illiterate ummah in terms of the Arab world and the Arab populations, and we're dealing with the leaders who think that we are very stupid. They have infantilized the majority of the world's population, including their own citizens and subjects. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is just a big show, a big fanfare, but it serves more a domestic purpose. They're really trying to prevent uprisings in their own countries.
Most definitely. My second question is one that is very, very important, and I think it has been the overarching theme in this gathering. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, he called the two-state solution further away than ever. Just given the facts on the ground, annexation threats, settlement expansion in Gaza. What are your thoughts on the two-state solution? Is it still a credible goal that we should all still aspire to?
Exactly, that's a brilliant question, and that is what these guys should be asking. I'm like, yeah, oh God, what is wrong with us that we vote or we have leaders like this? They're leading us, because when they say two states, and they're preparing to recognize a Palestinian state, what actual state? Exactly as you say, the annexation is going on, the genocide is going on, usurpation of land is going on, settlements is going on, expulsions are going on. So what land? Which land? Which land is left for them to negotiate this two-state solution? If they can't stop a genocide, how on earth are they going to get Israel to break that wall, to dismantle the settlements, or to expel all the settlers, those illegal squatters, that filth and scum that has come from Europe to occupy these spaces? How are they going to do that? And what legitimate rights of the Palestinians exactly are they talking about? Are they including, when they talk about self-determination, they're speaking only about the PA, the Palestinian Authority. They've excluded all other political parties representative of the Palestinian people. The most illegitimate representation of the Palestinian people is the Palestinian Authority, and yet these guys are giving them full recognition. And then, so that also comes into the whole question of leadership. And then part of this, are they talking about the right of return? What about, reparations and justice? I mean, justice is the first priority, and justice can only be established when you can hold the perpetrator to account. From, I don't know when, 1948, they haven't been able to hold Israel to account. How many, murderous incursions have there been by Israel on the Palestinian people? It's not a war. It's not a conflict. This is murder. How many incursions have there been, and what have they been able to do to hold Israel to account? Each one has just escalated because Israel was testing the waters to see at which point they're going to be stopped. They have not been stopped. All of these, false, hypocritical European leaders that are there now, suddenly saying that we might recognize Palestine by September, perhaps we will. I mean, something is seriously wrong with all of these Arab leaders if they can't read the writing on the wall. What did Keir Starmer say? He said he's prepared to recognize a Palestinian state by September. But there's conditions. And what are his conditions? He says that he may recognize the Palestinian state, but it's only based on the assumption that Israel does not abide by the ceasefire and does not commit to a two-state solution. So say Israel abides by a ceasefire for a month or 2 weeks or 10 days or whatever, and verbally says, okay, we're going to talk again about a two-state solution. Then what is Starmer going to say? Okay, now it's not necessary for Britain to recognize the Palestinian state. I mean, these are games. Chess. They're playing chess with the lives of human beings. And really, you know what? I think citizens of the world should be sick of this by now. We should not be echo chambers for all of these individuals who sit here sipping coffee in the UN and where else and dining with these scumbags and then telling us that they're doing something. The
mm,
only thing that can be done right now is substantive action first to halt the genocide, hold Israel to account by saying what? We're going to do economic sanctions. We're going to do this full onslaught boycott. Turkey is still supplying oil to Israel. I mean, these guys are just as bad as their European counterparts. They're, contributing and upholding the Zionist legacy and the harm that they're doing to the Palestinian peoples. I have to admit on air that I was very wrong. Right at
mm,
the beginning of the genocide, I was very confident that the new generation, young Arab leaders, would be different. They've turned out to be the worst leadership that the Arab Middle East regions ever have had so far.
mm, very, very powerful to mention. You spoken about the UK and those terms and conditions that they've put in place when it comes to recognizing Palestinian statehood. I want to look at France.
Mhm.
Emmanuel Macron also, I think it was in the weekend or earlier in the week, he came out that France is also committed to recognizing Palestine formally in September. Um, you said something about the undertones of some of these announcements. There's been a lot of celebration, another European country formally or planning to formally recognize Palestine, but just the undertones of it. France, for instance, has the largest, Muslim population in Europe. Could this be a genuine move by a major Western power like France that could ultimately influence others like the UK and Germany? Or is it, and what you've mentioned, to try and quell those uprisings, to try and keep the masses on the ground, to shut them up? How do you assess this move by France and Emmanuel Macron?
I mean, how did this guy suddenly just develop a conscience now? There's never such a thing. There's always who benefits. The question is who benefits and what do they stand to lose? That's quite frankly what it is. I don't see France as a formidable moral authoritative order in Europe. I mean, Germany is still blatantly speaking out and saying that they will not recognize a Palestinian state. I think we've passed this concept of recognition of a Palestinian state. The majority of states in the United Nations General Assembly recognize Palestine. It's only the racists who don't, right? And so we have to start asking ourselves that for how long are these guys going to go begging to the racists to get validation? The time has come for either a complete dismantling of the UN system or overhaul of the UN system, or ultimately just to say, you know what, we're taking a break, and that break means we're standing back and we're pushing back, like how the US keeps breaking the rules. The
Mm,
majority that have this unity must stand together and break the rules. There's no better time to break the rules than now when it comes to the mother of all crimes, which is a genocide. And that they have to do that. They have to break the rules to stop the genocide. And then they can step back and say, okay, do we now go back or do we create something different? I mean, France, Emmanuel Macron, 100 lawyers have asked the ICC to investigate Macron and the French ministers for Gaza genocide complicity. So that alone should tell you why suddenly France is suddenly, here showing this face, whatever it is. There's nothing sincere about them. They are the worst scam, hypocritical leaders we've ever faced in our lifetime. And you know what? I would take everything they say with a pinch of salt, because until and unless they cannot stop this genocide, they cannot get aid into Gaza, everything they say is literally pouring water down the drain.
most definitely. Dr. Quraysha Sooliman, we're going to leave it there for now. Always a pleasure chatting to you. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Walaikum salam. Yeah, I think very, very important and I think a very, very powerful assessment there by Dr. Quraysha Sooliman, giving us a much needed grounding in the realities and roadblocks facing the two-state solution, even if it is still a solution. And even as world leaders continue to call for peace, the absence of two key players in this genocide, being Israel and the United States, cast a long shadow of this gathering. But still, the push for recognition of Palestinian statehood continues, and for many, it's a vital piece for justice long overdue. In a world where images of starvation in Gaza, a genocide that is live streamed and well documented, and stalled diplomacy continues to dominate, perhaps this UN conference, even in its limitations, it's a reminder that the fight for dignity, the fight for statehood and sovereignty is far from over. We've come to the end of today's show. Thank you so much for listening to us. Thank you so much for staying with us. We'll be back with you again tomorrow morning for the Thursday edition of News and Views. Inayat Wadi will be coming on later for Wednesday nights with Inayat Wadi this evening from 7 until 9. And they'll be unpacking this United Nations conference that's currently taking place. They've termed it a high-level talks on Palestine, and yeah, at the heart of it all, at the center of it all, is I think a keen and deep look at a two-state solution for Israel and Palestine, and if whether or not that's still a viable option. So keep your eyes and ears peeled to Salam Media. We'll definitely be giving you the latest on all that you need to know regarding this conference. Otherwise, from myself, Salailo Makwidiri, and the rest of the team, we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Sharp, sharp.